Hello and welcome to this video trip report from my recent Australia custom tour. This followed the same itinerary as the regular birding from top to bottom, the Eastern Australia tour that we offer, so it will run in pretty much the same way. I'm going to show you some videos and photos from the tour and give you a quick walkthrough, tell you about some of our highlights, and give you an idea what the tour is all about. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to start with the Tropical Birding website here and the Eastern Australia page. We scan down a little bit. We've got a few nice photos there to look through, a map, and some important information about the tour. As you can see, it's a 20-day tour. It's quite a long one. It's not one of our cheaper tours. It's quite an expensive place to do. It says pace intense. So a lot of driving, a lot of long drives. It's a big country, a lot of ground to cover, and we want to see as many birds as possible. So it's intense, but physically it's pretty easy. Not a lot of long walks, so most people will be able to manage it. Fantastic tour. Hope you enjoy my walkthrough. We'll start with just a map of the country. Everybody's pretty familiar with Australia, and this tour only covers the right-hand side. And we're going to start the tour in the northeast in the city of Cairns. Cairns is very well connected with other places, very easy to get to. On the first day of the tour, we head to a place called Eddy Bay, which is about 90 minutes south of Cairns, Eddy Bay Beach. And recently, it's been one of the most reliable places to see Southern Cassowary. We got very lucky with this bird. Pretty much as soon as we arrived, we had an adult and a chick walking around in front of us. The cassowaries here are very used to people. It's supposed to be a very dangerous bird, so we kept our distance, but we got great views. You see, this one is got stripes on it. The locals call them stripies. It was raining when we were there, and we saw them drinking from a puddle as well. It had absolutely fantastic views of this mega bird. Really, really good start to the tour. On the first full day of the tour, we took a day trip to the Great Barrier Reef, which included a visit to Michaelmas Cay. It's a little small sandy island, and it's got fantastic nesting seabirds on there. The biggest numbers are of brown noddies, brown boobies, and sooty terns, but you do get several other species as well, like lesser crested terns, and occasionally you get a rarity like a red-footed booby or black noddies, as well as seabirds. It's a fantastic day for snorkeling and even scuba diving if you want to try that. I am very into fish as well as birds, and I did this tour twice this year, and on both days I identified over 100 species of fish. Got a few photos. This is called the spiny-cheeked clownfish, the golden striped butterfly fish, Moorish idol, striped surgeonfish, and a steep-headed parrotfish. Also see some other things like giant clams and sometimes sea turtles. This is a green turtle. Really nice stuff on the boat. A lot of young people doing working holidays. Quite an international crowd. Very into what they're doing. Very into wildlife. Really keen to share their knowledge with you. The next day, we did some early morning birding in Cairns. We started at the north end of the Esplanade, which is quite good for shorebirds. They've got mangroves there as well. Quite a nice variety of different habitats. One of the targets we look for there is the rose-crowned fruit dove, this beautiful bird. Another target is a Torresian kingfisher. Another area we often visit is a place called Redden Island and Macken's Beach. This is a slightly different type of forest up here, kind of like a monsoon forest. A lot of nice birds up here, and we got great views of this red-tailed black cockatoo on this tour. After a few more stops on the way north, we made it to the Daintree area, and we checked out the Daintree Discovery Centre. This is a great place to access the lowland rainforest from the area. To get there, we needed to cross the Daintree River, and I've got this car ferry that just goes to and fro all day long. Our main target up there was the buff-breasted paradise kingfisher, which had arrived already by the time we got there. This is a migrant bird that winters in New Guinea, on the island of New Guinea. We've got great views of it. It's a really stunning bird with this long tail. We went back and stayed in the village of Daintree, so we were pretty well positioned for the next day when we took a boat ride along the Daintree River. We've got a couple of boatmen that we use on the Daintree River. They're real experts on the local bird life, and they know just where to find all our targets. You can see some common birds like the Brahminy kite. This used to be a big rarity in the area, but it seems to have got a lot more common in the last few years, the spotted whistling duck. This is one of our main targets of the boat ride, is the Papuan frogmouth, and the boatmen usually have a nest staked out, and they took us straight to it. Another one of the targets is a great-billed heron, quite a rare water bird. A lot of non-birders come along here as well. Many of them want to see the saltwater crocodiles. You can see big ones and small ones. This is quite a small one. After we finished the boat cruise, we drove south and then cut up onto the Atherton Tablelands. Fantastic area where we spent the next few days. We started at a place called Granite Gorge, which has got quite a famous resident. This is called the Mareeba rock wallaby. There's a lot of macropod species in Australia, wallabies and kangaroos, and this is a very range restricted species, the Mareeba rock wallaby, and you can even feed them wallaby food. Get quite a close encounter with them. Very cute. This is a little joey that's left a pouch already, incredibly cute. One of our bird targets from the park is this squatter pigeon. We found a group of them feeding in the dry leaf litter here. Quite a cool looking pigeon. Also a good place for great bowerbirds. This one's not colourful at all. They don't impress the females with bright plumage, but rather collect things, which impresses the females. Great bowerbirds particularly like white and red colours, so they hop around trying to find little white bottle tops and sweet wrappers and stuff like that, which they decorate their bow with. It does have a rather nice pink crest, which is hidden from view, but you can just see it sticking out here, the back of its head. I did 2 tours there this year, and on the first one we found this amazing animal, the short-beaked echidna. Really weird, primitive mammal. It's an egg-laying mammal, a monotreme, and we were lucky enough to spot it by the roadside here and watched it foraging. It's fantastic. The next day we headed north to a place called Mount Carbine, the Mount Carbine Caravan Park, which is a fantastic birding site. This is a famous resident there, the tawny frogmouth. There's a lady there that keeps track of them. They change their roost sites every day, but in the morning she goes and finds out where it is and shows it to birders. Unfortunately, on our second visit, she'd just gone on holiday, so we missed it, but caught up with it later in the tour. This is rather an unusual colour form of it as well. It's kind of like rufous one. Normally they're grey-brown like the one at the back. So lots of common birds there as well. This is called the apostle bird because they normally hang around in groups of 12. It's a mud nesting bird here. And here you can see it running around on the ground collecting nesting material. And here we also saw a pair of Pacific coels here. This is a male displaying to the female. Kind of dark glossy black plumage, and the female has this very strong speckled pattern. Afterwards, we checked out another reserve called the Abattoir Swamp Bird Hide. We popped in there. Here we caught up with these beautiful red-backed fairy wrens. This very smart-looking male, black plumage with a bright red back. The next day, we headed south to the Atherton area and a national park called Mount Hypipamee National Park, which has some beautiful Montane rainforest. Here we saw this rather tame grey fantail. Some other birds like Lewin's honeyeater. And this was a real treat. I'm going to put the sound on for you here. You can see that that very harsh call is trying to attract a female. And here you can see the male is lifting his wings up, displaying to the female there. This was a real lucky find. We got them in the scope and watched the male displaying to the female for a few minutes. This is the Victoria's riflebird, which is a type of bird of paradise. It's called the golden bowerbird. This is a young male. Doesn't have his golden feathers yet, but still quite a rare bird. And we were very happy to catch up with it. We saw it bring in some material to its bower to work on it. And we got a few other nice birds like this pale yellow robin. This is a volcanic crater lake, and they've got a viewpoint where you can check it out, and it's quite a good place to see these birds, peregrine falcons. There's a nesting pair there, and sometimes they perch just at eye level or below, and yeah, we had a great view of these. Another place we visited in this area was Lake Barine, also surrounded by beautiful montane rainforest. Here we found this rather dull-looking bird. It's called the tooth-billed bowerbird. It used to be called tooth-billed catbird. I'll put the sound on for you. It's got a very loud call there. Doesn't really have a bower, but it takes green leaves and lays them upside down in a sort of display court, and it calls from the ground. Another resident of Lake Barine are the chowchillas. It's an Australasian endemic family of birds that do a lot of scraping on the ground. Looks like a little chicken. That was a juvenile there. This is the adult. This is the adult female. That beautiful rufous chest. And in some of the farmland nearby, you get big flocks of cranes of two species. You get Sarus cranes and brolgas, and we got nice views of these brolgas flying by. This is another place we visited. It's called the Curtin Fig, a huge fig tree that was sort of growing at an angle and sending all these aerial roots down. Fantastic place for birding as well, and also at night you can see some interesting things. The nearby village of Yungaburra in recent years has been one of the most reliable places to see a rather remarkable animal, which is this one, the platypus. Beautiful little animal. And yeah, every afternoon dozens of people turn up to watch these animals swimming around in this creek. Just fantastic. A real highlight of the tour for a lot of people. And also nearby you get these spectacled flying foxes, hundreds of them up in the trees. Sometimes you see other things like this green longtail type of possum. On our last morning on the Tablelands, we headed to a place called the Buff Forest Reserve near the village of Wandekla. This was a very different forest. This was not montane or lowland rainforest, but rather eucalyptus forest, sclerophyll it's called. And here we saw a lot of new birds for the trip. This is another Australian endemic family called the shrike tits. This is the eastern shrike tit. Saw a lot of other birds there, like the white-bellied cuckoo shrike, a couple of different tree creeper species, another Australian and New Guinea endemic family. This is a brown tree creeper and the white-throated tree creeper. And we headed back to Cairns, and the next day flew all the way down to the southern part of Queensland. It's actually the same state, even though you fly for 2 hours in a plane. Lots of interesting places to visit in the Brisbane area. We went to some mangroves. We saw a very common Australian magpie with a rather remarkable song. This was our target at the mangroves, a mangrove honey eater, which we got great views of. And also we visited a park in the suburbs, and here we found the koala. This is another one of the top mammals on people's lists. There's always something interesting around the Brisbane area, and we got pointed to this active nest of the rare square-tailed kite type of raptor, and this chick was just about to leave the nest. From Brisbane, we drove inland a little bit to the Lamington National Park and the O'Reilly's Rainforest Retreat, where we spent a couple of nights. They've been feeding birds there for absolutely decades, and they get incredibly tame. These ones are kind of perching in the entrance to the shop. They almost look like they're working there. This is the Australian king parrot. One of the big targets at O'Reilly's is another Australian endemic family, the lyrebirds, which are famous for being probably the best mimics in the world. They also like digging for worms and grubs. Luckily, I found this one on one of the trails and took the clients down to see it. This is the Albert's lyrebird, normally on the ground, but this one kind of climbed up in a tree and started scratching away. Yeah, we had fantastic views of this. They're a big target for people. And another member of the same family is the chowchillas. This is the Australian log runner. And for whatever reason, these are incredibly tame and easy to see at O'Reilly's. Normally quite a difficult bird to see. Here's one scratching around in the leaf litter as well, like the chowchilla. Another rainforest bird is the eastern whipbird that's got quite a remarkable song, very loud. And again, normally a very difficult bird to see, but at O'Reilly's, easy. I'm going to put the sound on here. This is a noisy pitter. Beautiful rainforest bird with a loud call, sometimes quite difficult to see. And we got our second riflebird species. This is the paradise riflebird. This is a female here, kind of brown colour. After O'Reilly's, we went back to Brisbane and then flew on to Sydney and then drove inland to the Capertee Valley and Capertee National Park. This year we were incredibly lucky to have access to a site where these critically endangered regent honeyeaters were found. This was a lifer for me and a big highlight of the tour. And we got to see them hopping around these eucalyptus trees, feeding on the flowers. Very, very rare bird. It's in real danger of going extinct. But there was some workers for BirdLife Australia there, which were monitoring nests and studying them. From the Capertee Valley, we drove to the nearby Lake Wallace. This is a very unusual musk duck, kind of dark grey. It's a diving duck. Very weird bird. We now started a long drive inland, and one of our first sights was a place near the town of Forbes called Back Yama. It has a very interesting type of forest here. It's dominated by a conifer called Calitris, an endemic conifer. The forest itself doesn't look much, but it's just packed with amazing birds. There's this beautiful bird called the red-capped robin. Also saw quite a rare bird called the southern whiteface. And these noisy grey-crowned babblers. We went on to a swamp nearby called the Gum Swamp, which has got a nice blind there. And here we found some nesting cockatiels. This is the blind itself. We were looking out at some nice water birds, like these pink-eared ducks. Check out the weird bill shape. Other ones like hoary-headed grebe. And nearby we found where some people were feeding some birds, and we got great views of just some common birds like galahs and crested pigeons. And also this local specialty, the superb parrot. We went on further inland to a place called Hay, which has a very famous resident nearby. This local guy called Phil Mayer has made quite a name for himself over the last few decades. It's a guy that shows people a very special bird. Monotypic family, and very, very difficult to find elsewhere. And before he took us out on a night excursion, he showed us some other cool birds, like this white-backed swallow. This is a young banded lapwing. And then we went up to the Hay Plains near Deniliquin. We had some nice mammal encounters here as well. This is a red kangaroo Here you can see them hopping away. Some other kangaroo species, like eastern and these western grey kangaroos. And then we went out at night together, and before we saw our main target, we saw some other birds as well. This was the singing bushlark, and here is our main target. It's called the Plains Wanderer, kind of near mythical bird. Really hard to see. If you want to see, you've pretty much got to go out with Phil at night. This is a female, which is more colourful than the male. It's like an oversized button quail, almost. But yeah, it's very specific habitat, and yeah, it's just a real exciting night out. We also found this endemic mammal called the fat-tailed dunnet. After a very late night, we got back to Hay, and then the next day we drove up to another town called Lake Cargelligo, which we used as a base to visit the wonderful Round Hill Nature Reserve. There's fantastic birding here, loads of good stuff. This is the splendid fairy wren, adding to our fairy wren tally. We saw nesting budgerigars there, a whole stack of different honey eaters. This is called the yellow plumed honey eater. We had greater blue bonnets. And from here we started making our way south again. This time we stayed at a place called Griffith, and we visited Binya Forest, which had some fantastic birds. Here we saw striped honey eaters, common bronzewings. This is a big target there called a mulga parrot. Beautiful male, that kind of bright green with a golden shoulder. Other birds nearby, like this weebill, Australia's smallest songbird. And then from there we had a very long drive back east towards the coast, and we made it to the town of Robertson, which we used as a base to visit barren grounds. This is a sort of heathland habitat, and this is a very rare bird we were looking for there, called the eastern bristlebird. It's another one of these Australian endemic families. After an afternoon and a morning birding in the barren grounds area, we headed up towards Sydney, and we stopped at a kind of a peninsula juts out into the sea called Bass Point. And here's what it looks like from the ground, kind of rocky promontory sticking out into the ocean. Great place for sea watching. Had some nice views of superb fairy wren, quite a common species. Next, we were trying to twitch some owls, and we headed to the suburbs of Sydney, and we were quite amused to watch these sulphur-crested cockatoos pulling trash out of a big trash can there. Totally unafraid of people. And after that, we managed to track down these huge, powerful owls. There was a family of them. This is the adult, and we also had nice views of a large chick. Next, we went on to the Royal National Park just south of Sydney, and in particular the Waddamulla section of it, which has some nice coastal heathland. This is what it looks like. It has some beautiful kind of eroded sandstone cliffs, and there's quite a few interesting birds there. Some of the things we saw, this is a Nankeen kestrel. This is a very rare and difficult bird called the chestnut-rumped heath wren, which took quite a while to find, but we got it in the end and had nice views. Also got the little wattle bird. We went for lunch in the national park here, and you're just surrounded by these very sort of common birds, but the sulphur-crested cockatoos were coming to our table and grabbing food and just sat there next to us eating it. I mean, this is amazing that this is a wild bird. This was rather nice. This is an Australasian swamp hen, and here you can see it has a very interesting way of feeding. It pulls up these reeds and feeds on the bases of them. And that was the end of the New South Wales section of our trip, and from there, from Sydney, we flew down to the island of Tasmania and the city of Hobart, where we spent a few days. One of the main places we were visiting and birding was a place called Bruny Island, which is really one of my favorite places in the world. Just packed with endemics and just absolute heaven on earth. It's just a wonderful place. This is one of the famous residents of Bruny called the 40-spotted pardalote. One of my colleagues located a nest and he told us where it was, so we managed to track it down and get great views of this very, very rare bird. These Tasmanian native hens, very common on Bruny Island. We also birded some sclerophyll forest down there that had a lot of these Tasmanian endemic honeyeaters, like this strong-billed honeyeater, black-headed honeyeater, and yellow-throated honeyeater. This is a place called Cape Bruny. This has a lighthouse and more of this coastal heathland habitat. And here we had real luck to find the Tasmanian endemic subspecies of echidna, which is less spiky and more kind of furry, but a really weird animal. Definitely one of the highlights, mammal highlights of the trip. Saw plenty of other nice birds there, like these white-fronted chats walking around on the lawns. We birded a little bit of sclerophyll forest nearby and came across this beautiful pink robin. The robins were a real favorite because a lot of them are kind of bright red and pink and pretty popular with the clients. My first tour that I did there this year, we came across this beautiful firetail. It's called a small species of finch or waxbill, and this bird seemed to be displaying with a long blade of grass, and it would just fly from wire to wire with it. It was very interesting behavior to observe. Heading back north on Bruny, we went along the coast and had good views of sooty oyster catchers and also pied oyster catchers. Here we had an adult bringing some food for its chick. And we had lunch in a place called Adventure Bay, which is a famous place to find this beautiful, rare endemic plover, the hooded plover. But in the morning, we went up to Mount Wellington, just near Hobart, and we checked out some subalpine eucalyptus forest. One of the residents here was this beautiful crescent honeyeater. Also some other things like scrub tit and Tasmanian scrub wrens. And then we went up to the top to this kind of subalpine tundra habitat, which was just absolutely stunning. We had a beautiful day, and we're looking down on the city of Hobart and the sea beyond. And we saw this one was also one of the most popular birds of the trip, the flame robin. And then drove on to the Tasman Peninsula, and we managed to track down these Cape Barren geese. And we also did a bit of sea watching, and on one of the tours we found some white-capped albatrosses out at sea. And we finished the tour with a visit to a penguin colony at night, and we saw the little penguin, little blue penguin, coming ashore, and we were shining red lights to see them. And we saw some of them waddling up the beach, which was quite fun. Just end by showing you my eBird trip report. This was our trip list for the tour, just under 400 species. It was a custom tour, so we were looking for lifers rather than overall numbers. So you can often expect about 400 species, of which 125 were photographed. But even though it's a birding trip, there's a lot of other very cool stuff, a lot of fantastic mammals and reptiles and even plants and other stuff. Yeah, it's a really varied trip. Definitely one of my favorites. Anyway, we'll finish there. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you soon on one of our Australia tours. Take care. All the best.